Hi guys, welcome back to another SCP. I hope you're all doing well, you beautiful bastards, and it is about time I did another reaction video. I put a schedule out and then did terribly sticking to my own schedule. It's been very manic here the last couple of weeks, so I do apologize for that. We've had like a massive heat wave, a bunch of other stuff's been going on, and yeah, I'm super sorry. But hopefully we'll stick to the schedule more. We are going to be doing SCP-187 Double Vision today by SCP Orientation. And as I always say, make sure you check out the link that'll be in the description, because the more you give them love, the more they want to create content. The more content they create, the more I can react to their content and create super OG content of my own. So let's just like dive right into the video, and I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like if you do.
Item number SCP-187.
I do like his voice.
Object class safe.
Oh.
Special containment procedures. SCP-187 is to be attended full-time by medical personnel who are to tranquilize or sedate her as needed.
Oh.
She is to be kept under a full set of medical restraints to prevent her from harming herself.
Huh?
Specifically, she is to wear padded mittens at all times in order to prevent her from attempting to damage her own eyes. If SCP-187 refuses to open her eyes during authorized testing or during site inspections, the use of eyelid speculums is authorized.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
All statements made by SCP-187 during testing and site inspections are to be recorded and analyzed. SCP-187 is to be prevented from interacting with D-Class personnel who are nearing the end of their cycle.
Their cycle?
SCP-187 is to be spoon-fed. Mild tranquilizers are to be added to all her meals.
Oh my god.
Description.
This sounds horrible.
SCP-187 is a Caucasian female, early to mid-20s, 180 centimeters tall.
Damn, she tall.
SCP-187 exhibits a unique...
I mean, she's totally small, average height, and definitely not taller than me. I want to hear it, okay? 180 centimeters is tall. Okay? I'm like shorter than that. I'm not going to say by how much, but I'll let you guys guess.
Form of precognition, whereby she sees everything in two states simultaneously.
Oh, no, that
as they
sounds
are,
horrible.
and as they will be. She does not see minor changes, only changes to what would be considered the norm. For example, in testing, when presented with 5 D-Class personnel and asked which of them would change their clothes, she couldn't answer, as such a change isn't drastic enough. However, when presented with 5 D-Class personnel and asked which would be shot, she was able to predict which one every time.
Oh god, that sounds
as she could
horrible.
see the injury inflicted just by looking at him. SCP-187 cannot
that sounds
foresee
horrible.
future events or changes to items at which she is not currently looking. Rather, she can see the future state of whatever she is looking at. This has led to some unexpected consequences. For example, as part of the usual tests performed on new human or humanoid SCP acquisitions, SCP-187 was given a standardized IQ test. When the results were collated, she was revealed to have an IQ in excess of 300.
What?
The limit of the tests.
Oh, because she
This,
could
of course,
predict
would have made
the
her
right
the most
answers.
intelligent human being on the planet. However, her intellect did not seem that high based on her initial interviews.
She could just see the
The
future
test was repeated
state.
4 times, and each time, she got the maximum
That's so cool. So she can like see the future of the paper. Oh, that's cool. I wish I had that at school.
possible score, answering every question correctly. When she was interviewed regarding this, she revealed that she did not actually know the answers to any of the questions. Rather, she had seen the tests, with the answers already filled in. When she was given a computerized IQ test, where her input didn't affect the future state of where she entered the answers, a keyboard rather than a pen and paper, her IQ was revealed to be 97, slightly below average. This happens with every written test presented to SCP-187. She can see the answers in advance, based on what she
That's pretty
herself is
good.
going to fill in, even if the tests are in a foreign language she does not understand. This presents a possible ontological paradox, an injection into the present of information from the future.
Oh, that would be horrible though. Imagine if you're like friends with someone, but then they have an accident and you can like see the accident on their body before it happens. Like, how are you supposed to explain that to someone without sounding completely insane?
Where this information, the correct answers, comes from is unknown and possibly unknowable. SCP-187 is
Sounds like a
suffering from
horrible
ongoing
life.
psychological damage as a result of her anomaly.
Yeah.
When, for instance, she is in the company of people who are soon to die, she simultaneously sees both their living, healthy selves and their dead, sometimes decomposing corpses, depending on how far into the future they will die.
Oh, that's
As a
horrible.
result, pharmacological assistance is required to keep her lucid. Due to the
So she's like permanently drugged up, basically. That they should just honestly, they should just put her out of her misery. I know the SCP is. I know people are gonna be like, oh, but the SCP are about containment and securing and protecting. What are they protecting her from? Honestly, her life sounds like a living hell. Maybe they should just put her out of her misery.
effect that prolonged malnutrition is having on SCP-187's health, and the impact that 187's death would have on the Foundation's medium-term emergency planning. SCP-187 is to be blindfolded during meetings.
I see. So they keep her around because she's useful, not because she's having a decent... That's so harsh, man.
Mealtimes are to last no longer than 15 minutes, and must take place in a location for which SCP-187 has not predicted any significant changes. Remarks and comments made by SCP-187 which turned out to be prophecies. The divorce of Dr. SCP-187. Your ring. Doctor. My ring?
You're not wearing it in the
SCP-187.
future.
Yes, your wedding ring. Doctor. What about it? SCP-187. You're not wearing it.
Ooh,
Doctor. I am. Look, it's right there.
not in the future.
SCP-187. You won't be.
Oh,
Dr.'s husband filed for divorce the next day. When she returned for duty, she was no longer wearing her wedding ring. She had been married for 19 years, more than half her life, so wearing the ring was considered normal, and not wearing the ring was enough of an abnormality for SCP-187 to see it.
that sounds horrible.
The deaths of the
Oh,
following
man.
D-Class personnel. D-16124. SCP-187. Why is he so swollen?
Swollen?
D-16124 was later exposed to the vacuum of space, after being sent through SCP-120 in order to dial it to the next destination.
Oh my god.
D-16198. SCP-187.
They just yeeted a man into space just to configure the fucking pool. Right, okay.
He's cute. Interviewer. Who?
Shame
The man
he's dead
standing outside
soon.
that cell. SCP-187. Yes. What's his name? Interviewer. I don't know. Hey, you there. D-16198 turned to face them, at which point SCP-187
Oh, no.
gasped and burst into tears, screaming, "He's going to die." Interviewer. He will? How do you know? SCP-187.
His face is missing.
He's got a massive hole in the left-hand side of his head.
Oh.
D-16198 was later terminated by gunfire while attempting to escape the site. He may have attempted escape due to SCP.
That's the thing, is like, is she causing the future to occur? Because if she never said anything about him being shot, would he have panicked enough to try and escape the facility and then end up being shot?
P-187 screaming, implying that she can set so-called self-fulfilling prophecies
Yeah.
in motion. D-16206.
That's what I'm saying.
SCP-187. His legs, his legs, his legs, his legs, his legs, his legs. Where are his f***ing legs? D-16206 was killed when SCP escaped from its cell and bit him in half
Oh my
while attempting to
God.
flee the site. The attempted escape of SCP. While being escorted through site, SCP-187 stopped outside SCP's cell, staring intently. Dr. Klein, what are you looking at? SCP-187, how did it break through such a heavy door? Dr. Klein, excuse me? SCP-187, that door is nearly a foot thick. How did it manage to destroy it?
Oh my god, so like, is she actually making prophecies? But then the thing is, if they heard her say this, why didn't they just like, you know, get the protocols in place to make sure it didn't escape and bite someone in half? I'm just saying.
17 hours later, SCP somehow managed to work free of its restraints and did indeed tear through the door to its cell. However, Dr. Klein had alerted security due to SCP-187's statements, so an armed response team was ready and managed to subdue SCP with gunfire. The cost of keeping a full-time medical team on hand to ensure SCP-187's well-being is obviously high. However, the fact that her anomaly allowed the prevention of an escape attempt by SCP, a Keter-class subject, shows that she may be useful for more than just pure research. A proposal has been submitted to introduce her to seemingly indestructible SCPs, in the hopes that she will see them as either dead or destroyed, and be able to describe the manner of death or destruction.
This is really harsh though. Like, I know she's useful, and I know the SCP is all about like practicality and usefulness of things and containing things, but like, come on. Her life sounds fucking horrible.
This proposal is pending. The potential temporal logistics needed careful consideration. She would, in effect, be seeing methods of destruction or termination, which would only be possible because she saw them. This has caused concern among several higher members of staff. Details of further experimentation may be found in the following experiment log. Experiment log of Dr. Gears, testing exposure of SCP-187 to other SCP items.
That
Date,
sounds dangerous.
undisclosed. Experiment 01.
Oh god.
Exposure to SCP-173. SCP-187 produced a sustained scream for 1 minute, 38 seconds, before losing consciousness and falling to the ground. SCP-187 had to be physically removed and maintained a state of catatonic.
I love SCP orientation, but I love that her falling to the ground is just like the same smiling woman, but just like lopsided on the floor, like. And she's on like the medical gurney thing, just like. Sorry, that was just funny to me.
Tonia for 48 hours. SCP-187 regained consciousness, but was unable to remember what she had seen, and remained in mild shock for several days. Experiment 02. Exposure to SCP-139 ARC. SCP-187 stated that she saw several bone fragments scattered around, along with data expunged, as yet not identified. SCP-187 became extremely upset, screaming, "It can see me! It's out! It can f***ing see me!" several times, and had to be physically restrained and removed. Experiment 03.
Oh man, this is so sad. Like, they are literally just repeatedly traumatizing this girl. I know, again, I said that, like, I don't like this SCP. I do not like this one. I know some of the other ones have been a lot more interesting, but like this one's genuinely upsetting me. Like I'm a very emotional person, like empathetic almost, and like just imagining someone in this situation, oh, it's genuinely upsetting me. I could not, I don't know how she could cope.
To SCP-162. SCP-187 felt no pull from SCP-162 and asked why she was viewing a pile of melted slag. SCP-187 removed from containment without incident. Experiment 04. Exposure to SCP-529. SCP-187 appeared very nervous, asking, "Is this a joke?" several times. SCP-187 reported that she saw a cat and that it looked somewhat lonely. SCP-187 proceeded to pet SCP-529, moving her hand over where the hindquarters would be, as if stroking the tail. Increased observation of SCP-529 requested. Experiment 05.
Wait, is that SCP just like a cat, but one half the cat's missing? So I guess she could see the back end of the cat? I'll need to look at that one.
Exposure to SCP-003. SCP-187 appeared nervous, then said hello to SCP-003. SCP-187 appeared to then engage in conversation with SCP-003. However, No member of staff was able to hear any speech or other auditory emanations from SCP-003. When questioned, SCP-187 responded that SCP-003 was a very nice lady. She seems really smart.
Huh?
Increased security and review of SCP-003 has been...
They're finding out so much fucking shit from these SCPs. They're freaking out. The Foundation is freaking out right now. You can just be like, what the fuck is going on? It can speak?
Requested. Experiment 06. Exposure to SCP-882. SCP-187 entered the containment area and viewed SCP-882. SCP-187 moved back several steps and appeared to be in mild shock. SCP-187 was questioned and responded, "Jesus, it's huge. This is amazing." SCP-187 stopped responding to questions and continued to stare at SCP-882 without blinking for 3 minutes. SCP-187 had to be physically removed from the containment area to continue questioning. SCP-187 appeared dazed.
What is it?
And responded, "It's so
Big.
I mean, it's so complex. It's sick, with all the bones and blood in it, but it looks like the inside of a 50-foot tall clock. It's kinda pretty." Shortly before SCP-187
What?
was returned to containment, SCP-187 suddenly fell to the ground, screaming and holding her head. After several hours, during which SCP-187 was heavily sedated and
What have they
unresponsive to
done?
questioning, SCP-187 reported grinding, smashing, squealing. It sounded like a train wreck that just went on and on. SCP-187 reported the sound lasted for approximately 3 hours.
Sounds horrible.
Before fading out of hearing. Increased security around SCP-882 has been requested. Experiment 07. Exposure to
Wait, they think the SCP did that to her? I mean, to be fair, she was staring at it for ages, but like...
SCP. Data expunged. Experiment 08. Exposure to SCP-015. SCP-187 was exposed to SCP-015 with the help of Team Zeta-9.
015.
SCP-187 reported only slight differences in the structure until she opened a door leading outside of SCP-015. SCP-187 reported a hallway of pipes stretching for miles and miles.
A hallway of pipes?
SCP-187 stated that she was not able to see the other end of the hall, but that it seemed to branch off to the sides, with lots of side hallways. Zeta-9 team members reported no unusual behavior within SCP-015, and that the door opened into open air, with no hallway of any kind visible. Experiment 09.
That building's gonna be doing some expanding soon.
Exposure to SCP-415. SCP-187 begins observation of SCP-415 and immediately appears to be agitated. SCP-187 appears to be feeling physically ill and asks repeatedly to be removed from observation. Questioning reveals that SCP-187 observed an empty, diseased corpse that had partially decomposed.
Ugh.
Increased security for SCP-415.
I don't know what SCP-415 is, but that doesn't sound good for any future D-Class personnel.
Advised. Experiment 10. Exposure to SCP-455. SCP-187 is taken to observe SCP-455 from a small Zodiac craft. SCP-187 takes a sharp intake of breath, then shakes her head and attempts to look away. SCP-187 has to be physically manipulated to continue observation of SCP-455.
So harsh.
SCP-187 makes several inarticulate noises before screaming several times.
Why?
SCP-187 observed a huge thing. It was a mass of metal, just floating, like a big island made of rusty bulges. It was like it was sick with tumors, but it was all metal. I could feel it.
Oh, that
It's
sounds
not
horrible.
alive. It never was. But it thinks it is. It's... What the hell was that? Recontinuation of recon team insertion into SCP-455 is under review.
How can you not be alive but think you are? Isn't that like what? being alive is, like having a awareness of, I don't know, we're getting very into the like morals of stuff, I suppose. I don't know. That's so strange to like not be alive but think you're alive. It's a really weird concept.
Experiment 11. Exposure to SCP-343. SCP-187 enters containment with SCP-343.
Warhead.
SCP-187 and SCP-343 appear to converse without incident about general topics for nearly half an hour. SCP-187 stated that SCP-343 appears really nice, if kinda lonely. For a little girl, she's really well-spoken. What is she, 6? Maybe 7? Increased research efforts into SCP-343 are under review. Experiment 12. Exposure to SCP-646.
646, that sounds familiar.
SCP-187 becomes violently ill upon observation of SCP-646. After recovery, SCP-187 stated that she observed giant maggot things.
Oh god, no, no, no. No, no, no. I too would be violently sick upon witnessing giant maggot things. I do not really have a fear of anything creature-wise in the wild. I have a healthy respect for pretty much everything, but maggots can die in a hole and burn and be set on fire for eternity. I hate those writhing, pulsating little wiggly worm things, and I too am in agreement with the projectile vomit that she experienced, just to let everyone know.
Hundreds of them, with kinda human bodies and
oh god,
they had these tentacle things.
That's so gross.
All stuck into each other. They were all squirming and, god, there was one near the middle. It wasn't soft. It had some kind of shell and this kind of jelly head. It was, I think it was mating. Enhanced security for SCP-646 advised.
I don't want to imagine that.
Experiment 13.
Ooh.
Exposure to SCP-106. SCP-187 observation test aborted after 30 seconds due to escape incident by SCP-106. SCP-187 appeared to observe staff under attack or undergoing intense physical torture and mutilation 2 minutes before attack or capture. SCP-106 appeared to specifically target staff under observation by SCP-187. SCP-106 appeared to specifically avoid harming SCP-187 on 3 separate incidents. Under questioning, SCP-187 said that that thing wanted an audience, someone to watch. It likes it. SCP-187 refused to elaborate.
Isn't 106 that creepy, like portal guy that's terrifying and likes to kill people for pleasure? There's too many SCPs. I think that's 106, but yeah. I don't know why they made her look at that guy. That's terrifying.
Further questioning pending. Lesson complete. If you missed the previous orientation, go watch SCP.
That was a pretty interesting one. I genuinely feel sorry for the girl though. I know she's handy to the SCP for research purposes, and I know she's handy to help prevent future escapes, but my god, what a shitty life to live. I don't know what I would do in her position. I would probably have just, I don't know, I'd have just completely lost it, gone full on catatonic like colonists in RimWorld, and just been done with life. Her and Cassandra are probably two of the saddest ones I've watched so far. But I mean, if you've got sadder ones, you can try and recommend them for me, because I will most likely cry. But no, that one kind of hurt. Like, I couldn't imagine being in her position. That would suck so much. Like, how are you supposed to form friendships with anyone if half the people you see, you can just see them as future dead people? That would really fucking suck. But lucky I'm not in her position, I suppose. Either way, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this. It's a little bit longer than usual, but it was a really good video by SCP Orientation. Again, check out the video in the comments below, in the description below. Make sure you leave a like, show some love. These content creators are great and they give me shit to watch. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like or subscribe if you're enjoying it, and I'll see you in the next reaction video. Bye!